Srimad Bhagavatam 11, 10, 1. sri-bhagavan uvaca mayoditesv avahitah sva-dharmesu mad-asrayah varnasrama-kulacaram akamatma samacaret mayoditesv. So here Sri Bhagavan uvaca. So new chapter beginning. The chapter is entitled The Nature of Fruitive Activity. So in the previous chapter, the Lord has described instructions using the narrative of the avadhuta brahmana, the catur-varnyam, and through that, through his story and through the other various incidents that he tells, the Lord has taught the two twin principles of detachment from matter and attachment to the transcendental reality. Now, in this chapter, he describes the process of sadhana. The practical means by which the soul can redirect one's desires. How? The principles that have been learned from the 24 gurus, the Vedic culture provides a social structure for implementing them. Although the implementation has to be done individually by each individual, but the social structure, if it is supportive, then that implementation becomes easier. And varnashram provides that supportive structure. So now here in this verse, it is mayoditesv avahitah, that which is given by me, the instruction, avahitah, carrying them out, with carefully implementing them. Sva-dharmesu mad-asrayah, according to one's dharma. Sva-dharmesu mad-asrayah, take shelter of me. Varnasrama-kulacaram. Varnashram is the system of varna and ashram. Kulacaram, Kula is in the society, in the dynasty. Acharam, act accordingly. Akamatma samacaret. Akamatma, being, giving up material desires. Samacaret, should practice. So, this verse endorses varnashram dharma. Vishwanath Thakur in his commentary mentions that this is talking about not ordinary varnashram but Devi varnashram, where varnashram is a means to follow the principles of Vaishnavism ultimately. So here the point is that when we want to redirect our heart towards Krishna, so here it is said that akamatma, we need to be free from desires. Akamatma. So Atma is such a person. When this person understands that I am the soul, then material desires no longer make that same level of sense as they used to earlier. Because we understand that matter is of a different nature from me and matter cannot satisfy me. There has to be, the scripture offer not just philosophy, but they also offer process. And the purpose of philosophy is to practice the process. If we study the philosophy but don't practice the process, then we cannot grow much in our spiritual life. The philosophy is important, no doubt, because the philosophy shows us the map. But after we get the map, it is for us to move on that journey, move on the track which is, on the road which is understood from the map. It is for us to move. So study of scripture doesn't in and of itself lead to spiritual advancement. Study of scripture shows us the process to spiritual advancement and takes us along that journey when we practice bhakti. Now, of course, study of scripture can also be bhakti if it is done in the devotional mood. But if it is done in a mood of egoistic aggrandizement, where scripture is a tool for attracting praise and prestige from the world, then we won't grow spiritually. So mayoditesv avahitah. When we carefully accept the words that have come from Krishna, then we can actually move onwards and move onwards in our spiritual journey. Varnashram. Krishna talks about varnashram in 4.13 in the Bhagavad-gita, and varnashram will be talked about more in detail in the later parts of this chapter also. The whole principle in this is that we have to keep a spiritual purpose in mind while following different material processes in this world. Sometimes the material spiritual separation becomes a little messy to understand. There's a tendency to consider everything spiritual sometimes. Or because I'm a devotee, all aspects of my life are spiritual. Or sometimes there is a tendency to demonize the material, thinking, oh, this has got nothing to do with my spiritual life. Rather than having that kind of attitude, we can have a more integrated attitude of levels of spiritual connectedness. There are devotional activities like chanting, studying scripture, worshipping the deity. These are directly devotional. The connection with Krishna and the potential for connection with Krishna is much more in these activities. Our whole system of varnashram is meant to create a social environment which enables people to practice spiritual life in a materially harmonious setting. Means take care of the material needs, and after taking care of the material needs, they can move onwards and practice their spiritual life. So to the extent the attending to the material needs becomes more and more complicated, to that extent practicing spiritual life also becomes more and more complicated. And thus one cannot achieve the much desired balance that is very much essential for doing one's material obligations properly and also progressing in our spiritual aspirations. So if there is a social structure which enables us to do our material duties in a harmonious way, then that helps us not just in taking care of material needs but also in terms of giving us time and peace of mind by which we can practice our spiritual life. So varnashram doesn't have to be necessarily a particular varnashram in principle and in practice can have significant differences, and the essence is that in the devotionally conducive setting the material needs are taken care of. Now the important thing to recognize in all this, as Krishna is telling over here in this verse, is mayoditesv avahitah. Krishna has spoken the broad principles. Sva-dharmesu mad-asrayah. Sva-dharmesu, that follow my dharma. According to your own dharma, take shelter of me. It's interesting, this combination of phrases. Sva-dharmesu mad-asrayah. Follow your dharma, but take shelter of me. That means there is acknowledgement of our individuality, that we have particular natures and we cannot just wish away our nature. So sva-dharmesu, that is acknowledged, and we have our particular inclinations, our particular dispositions, our particular talents, our particular limitations also. And just because when we philosophically understand that I am not the body, I am the soul, we cannot wish it all away. It is still there. So Krishna is saying sva-dharmesu mad-asrayah. So according to your nature, according to the dharma, according to the duty that is ordained according to your nature, mad-asrayah. Mad-asrayah is take shelter of me. And the process that was there at that time was varnasrama-kulacaram. That you practice varnashram to do this, sva-dharmesu mad-asrayah. So Sometimes people think that taking shelter of God means that we lose all our individuality. No. The whole process of taking shelter of God is founded in an acknowledgement of our individuality, and provides for customization according to that individuality. That's why what was there in the past in terms of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra was an acknowledgement and customization of human individuality. And that principle we can adapt in our lives. We find out what our talents are, what abilities we have, how best we can function in this world, and how best we can serve Krishna. And accordingly, with the guidance of the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas, we choose to serve Krishna accordingly. And in this way, we can march onwards in our spiritual life towards destination Krishna. Thank you.